expansion, an era portrayed in many history books with a sense of adventure and civilization, masks a darker reality beneath its surface. It was a time defined by conquest, exploitation, and profound suffering that reshaped continents and impacted millions of lives. Let us begin in the early 15th century, when European powers, driven by the promise of wealth and strategic advantage, embarked on ambitious maritime explorations. These journeys were not simply voyages of discovery, they were calculated moves to establish political dominance and economic supremacy. As ships set sail, they carried not just traders and missionaries, but the seeds of profound transformation for the lands they encountered. Initially, colonial expansion introduced new goods and technologies that promised mutual benefit. However, the underlying intent soon overshadowed these exchanges. With European powers such as Spain, Portugal, Britain, France, and the Netherlands racing to carve up vast territories in Africa, Asia, and the Americas, the true costs of expansion began to unravel. The indigenous populations were often seen not as partners, but as obstacles or labor resources to be overcome, subdued, and exploited. In Africa, the impact of colonialism was devastating. The infamous triangular trade, involving the brutal transfer of enslaved Africans across the Atlantic, was a direct result of this insatiable quest for profit. Communities were torn apart, societies destabilized, and millions of lives were traded like commodities. Meanwhile, the partitioning of Africa by European powers disregarded ethnic and cultural boundaries, sowing seeds of conflict that echo to this day. The Americas, too, bore witness to the dark side of colonial expansion. The arrival of Europeans marked the beginning of catastrophic depopulation for indigenous peoples, driven by disease, warfare, and forced assimilation. The Spanish conquests in South America, punctuated by the fall of the mighty Aztec and Inca empires, illustrated the brutal methods used to establish control and extract wealth. In Asia, colonization manifested through similar patterns of exploitation, but also through the imposition of foreign governance systems that disrupted traditional societies. The British colonization of India is a poignant example, where economic policies prioritized British interests, leading to widespread poverty and resource depletion. The Opium Wars in China further exemplified the lengths to which colonial powers would go to preserve their economic advantage. Throughout these continents, the imposition of foreign rule dismantled indigenous governance, leading to cultural erosion and loss of identity. Education systems were revamped to glorify the colonizers' history and values, often at the expense of local knowledge and practices. This cultural imperialism left a lasting legacy of psychological and societal impacts that persist long after the colonial era officially ended. As we reflect on colonial expansion, it is essential to recognize that its dark reality is not merely a relic of the past. The socio-economic inequalities and cultural divides it fostered continue to challenge many nations today. By understanding this history in its entirety, acknowledging both the profound suffering it caused and the resilience it inspired, we can foster a deeper appreciation of our shared past and work toward a future that honors the dignity of all peoples.